Are you tired of poker shows where the hosts sound like they're teaching traffic school? Are you done with listening to the latest internet geek with a shiny bracelet and a bankroll that'll be gone faster than you can say Chris Moneymaker? Welcome to Flophouse Radio, sponsored by Commerce Casino. This is the show where you can learn to think and play like a winning player. Our number is 800-222-5222. Call in, weigh in, or just tune in, and you'll see why Roger Rod stands alone as poker's only true professional entertainer and poker expert. Once again, that number is 800-222-KABC. Write it down and call in or just listen. But either way, it's time for Flophouse Radio with your host, the incomparable performer and lifetime winning professional poker player, Roger Rod.
Good morning if you're a poker player. Good evening if you're a normie. You heard what the man said. This is Flophouse Radio. This is the maiden voyage of Flophouse Radio. I am your host, Roger Rod. Thank you so much for being here on our first show. We have euphemistically flung the champagne bottle towards the bow of the ship that is departing. You are on the maiden voyage of Flophouse Radio, and I'm very glad to have you here. And if I want to continue to have you here, and I want to continue to have this show, just as you saw through the brilliance of the business minds of KABC, they had a disclaimer. I've got to put one out, too, to make sure that I keep this show. Because although Flophouse Radio is sponsored by the Commerce Casino, and because we live in a litigious society, if you don't know what that means, look it up, because you're going to have a hard time keeping up with this show if you don't know the meaning of that word. I want to make something very crystal clear. The Commerce Casino is in no way responsible for any part of the content on this show. And to be more specific, anything that is said by me, your host, Roger Rod. These are my personal opinions, perceptions, and beliefs. They are in no way to be construed as a reflection or responsibility of the Commerce Casino. So in short, if you're some prissy little punk looking to sue some deep pockets corporation, get a new hobby and buckle up, because we are here at Flophouse Radio, and I'm going to explain to you exactly what I'm doing here, because this is a question. In the years I have been teaching and have been involved teaching at the Commerce Casino, in particular, the largest poker casino in the world for the last 3 years, we live in a star effer society. That's right, effer. I'm going to clean it on up. I'll tell you about the X-rated show later. But we do live in a star effer society. And one of the questions I get asked with regularity is, who are you, dude? Never heard of you. How come you don't have a bracelet? How come you're not like writing for some like poker trade rag, or dude, like I haven't even seen you on TV or anything. Totally, I have no idea who you are. Okay, ROGERRODD. That's my name. Take some time, go to my website, rogerrod.com, or Google my name, because you see, by choice, I've gone into other professions, not the least of which you're listening to right now. But make no mistake about it, every new endeavor has always been financed by poker. Starting with my room and board in college, where I went to a very prestigious and expensive school, and I'm not saying that to be self-serving. I'm stating it because I think everyone pretty well knows that Stanford, where I went, is the Harvard of the West Coast. Very pricey school. I had a scholarship that covered everything but room and board, and I financed that by playing poker, because I played. My first hand of Texas Hold'em in 1967. I started playing professionally in 1973. And today, I only play when it's necessary. But I've been a winning poker player since long before most of these 20-something new jacks won that famous swimming race as a little pollywog inside of their daddy's reproductive system. And that is the most crucial and pertinent yardstick in this game, the test of time. Anybody heard from Jamie Gold lately? Last time I checked, when he wasn't getting sued for trying to screw his partner out of $6 million, he was shucking clams at Venice Beach with a tip jar in front of him, trying to get a buy-in for the $400 game at the Commerce. So here's your first spoiler alert, with few exceptions. If you think that the best players in the world are the ones that you're seeing on TV, and you also believe that the best singers in the world are on American Idol, best comedians in the world are on Last Comic Standing, and you probably also believe that somebody other than Oprah is going to be on the cover of the next Oprah magazine. The best players in the world that I know of will never be mentioned by name on this show. They're friends of mine, and they prefer the hustle of having a millionaire's lifestyle while flying under the radar of those three infamous letters, IRS. They'd rather do that than be flying some trademark circus costume like a hockey jersey, or I saw some coconut the other night wearing a flag, or Jesus Ferguson with his hat and all that. Yeah, he ain't going to rise up after 3 days after this latest full tilt poker. I can guarantee you Jesus will not be living up to that name. Or one of the clowns that have regular meltdowns on some jackass poker show like Poker After Dark, where everyone tries so much. Please pay attention to me. Because as I mentioned, the American public is a country of star effers. They get told who's a celebrity and they obey. Nobody would pay 10 cents to see a 40-year veteran comedian they've never heard of. But they will pay $500 a seat. Casey Anthony give it a shot for the first time. You see, I like what I do. I like who I am. And I chose to stop looking at two-hole cards for a living. I sure as hell didn't change careers because I went broke and I couldn't win anymore. And in the words of Paul Newman, as he said to Robert Redford in a classic movie, The Sting, when Redford was questioning whether or not Newman still had the goods as a grifter. Don't kid yourself, my friend, I can still do it. Now, knowing this current lot of internet geeks that make up the majority in the field of poker today, this is a speech, the one you've just heard, or some slight variation of it that I'm going to have to repeat countless times on this show. They will likely show me zero respect, which is fine because I have less for them. Not only as players, but as people. These are the guys that spent 4 years in high school ducking spitwads, or they were dateless on prom night, or both, and now they've been thrust into the national spotlight. While some of them have won vast sums of money on the internet, what real accomplishment is that? When you're still living in your mama's basement, and your idea of being a playboy is making it rain at a strip club where you go to because you have to pay women to pay attention to you. Then it's back to mom's basement for the Jack Mag, and since Black Friday squashed the online poker scene, well, maybe you can squeeze in a few hours of Magic the Gathering. Now, if that's not enough, check this out. Internet poker is to real poker. And by real poker, I mean poker where you sit down at a poker table with other poker players. So for the purpose of this conversation, internet poker is to real poker what flag football is to full contact, full pads football. Because you're not playing real football until players are on the ground bleeding or getting carried off on gurneys or facing permanent injury or death, all of which are cards that are in the deck if you play real full contact football, even from the time that you're a little pup playing Pop Warner. And you're not playing real poker until you're staring across the table at an opponent where you're either better than they are or they're better than you are. And if it's the latter, they are going to publicly bust you. So you can then skulk away from the table and do the walk of shame, and while you're doing that, you're wondering just what jokes they're telling about that 10-jack you played up front. And that's a whole lot more humbling than just having your name and your little cutesy logo disappearing off of the computer screen. There's a lot more genuine poker skill required to study and properly profile your opponents. Instead of just yanking up Poker Tracker or some other place where you can go and get information handed to you, even if you don't have the talent or the discipline required to read other players. That is a skill. That takes years to develop. It takes discipline, thought, control. And P.S., while you were playing in the game, the real poker game. Keep in mind, let's reset. We're talking about real poker. The discipline required to read other players. While you were playing, conversations or remarks were taking place that involved or were directed at you, during which and after hands where you either gained or gave away crucial strategic information. Now, that's a whole lot different than just typing NH LOL in the chat box. Internet players who've been multitasking on computers since they were in diapers, well, they like to brag about how many more hands they've played than real poker players. And how's that supposed to impress me when most of them played them wrong? Quantity will never replace quality. The Bee Gees sold more albums than the Beatles. Do you really think that 50 years from now, somebody's going to turn off Abbey Road so they can listen to chive talking. I don't think so. And internet players, riddle me this. Because you've got that give me another hand right now attitude with the 30 games you're used to playing at a time, and God, it is so easy to spot you in a real poker game where it's about a 2-minute wait between hands, and whenever you're not in the pot, you look like you need a friggin' seatbelt. There are few bigger requirements for success as a professional poker player than prestige, and your rush poker playing butt does not have any patience. I'm going to finish this off with a little rant. Keep in mind, I'm talking about the people that are likely going to be calling into this show, which you should be thinking about doing at this time, at 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-KABC, 222-5222. Give us a call, Flophouse Radio. We're going to be going to break. Keep in mind where you are, Flophouse Radio at Talk Radio 790 KABC. Thanks for coming back.